Yo, good evening and welcome to another episode of the Same Old Arsenal Team Talk. I'm your host, Dan Potts, and I am delighted to be joined by two Manchester City guests tonight and my good friend and brother-in-law, Mark Arguna. Mark, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, man, we say that sheepishly. We say it sheepishly.
No. I'm a football fan and I love watching goals.
Man, let's hope they're our way, man. Let's hope they're our way. Also joining us back again is Ray from City Fan TV. Ray, how you doing, mate?
Hey, buddy, I'm all right. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I hope it's raining goals.
Man, I reckon it will be, man. I've got a feeling it will be. And joining us for a debut is Manchester City fan Scott Schooling, good friend of Craig Scott and Mark Partridge. Scott, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, good. Looking forward to the weekend and hopefully our form continues in the same frame. We've been at it lately, so could be an interesting game.
Yeah, I think it will be. And obviously, there's that link with the Arteta and Pep Guardiola situation, which we're going to come into. We're going to do things a little bit differently now. We're going to go and start with Manchester City instead of Arsenal. So, Ray, I'm going to come to you. We spoke a little bit on your show yesterday about what we expect of the game this weekend, and obviously, we've had. Well, both of us have played kind of midweek, us last night and you obviously against Everton. What are you making of this game this weekend, mate? Because obviously Arteta's trying to get one over Pep. He managed to get one over in the cup, but it's not been too great for us in the league. Are you expecting anything different moving forward this weekend, mate?
It's really difficult to call because you played last night, so you're not having a lot against us. And then you've got to play Benfica next week, and you've got to get through that tie. And we all know that your league position is precarious, down in 10th. It's going to be tough to get to Champions League. I think that's probably gone. Europa League is probably your only hope to get into Europe, unless you win the Europa League. So I'm not sure whether you're going to put a full team out. Put 11 players, but maybe not the best 11 players that you got. So that's my only not concern because if it's not your best 11, it's probably good for us. But that's the only thing I'm thinking about. Who are you going to put out? Who are we going to put out? We got Borussia Mönchengladbach in the week as well, and that's probably our bigger target. With that, it's hard to say this without sounding arrogant, but with 10 points clear, we can afford to lose a couple of games or drop a couple of points against you guys, and we should still be quite safe. So. We might drop a couple of players. We're waiting to see whether Gundogan is fit enough to start, whether KDB is fit enough to start. I'm not
He will be. He always is against us.
He's come back. He come back early just for you. We're supposed to be out for up to 6 weeks. He's come back after 4 weeks just for you guys. But to be honest, I was talking to some lads before. We were trying to do a composite 11, and we couldn't put any Arsenal players in. And this is because of the strength of City and our strength in depth. At the moment, it doesn't really feel like it matters too much who misses out because the system is working and the other players are working so well that we can slot anybody in almost anywhere and it'll still be reasonably good. We played Foden up top for one game. It didn't really work out, but then we can play him on the left or the right, or we can bring Mahrez in like we did for last night, and he scores us a wonderful goal. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be tough for you guys, whoever we put out and whoever you put out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting team selection. Scott, I'll come to you on that point because obviously both of us have got our eyes on Europe. So it's quite a good or bad time to play Arsenal or City, which way you look at it. I think personally it's going to be very difficult for Arsenal either way because you can put out your B side and it be as strong as ours. So what are you making of it, mate?
Well, it's the strength and depth of the squad is certainly showing at the moment. Even when we rest players, you've only got to look at our bench the other night against Everton, the quality that's there. And the way Pep Guardiola plays and sets our teams up, even the City fans, we don't know what that team's going to be like or who's actually going to start. He's quite capable of chucking in a surprise here and there. I think Sheffield United we played the other week. You had Diaz, Stones and Laporte start at the back with Cancelo. And immediately Cancelo moved into the midfield, which he's done a lot lately. And he's been brilliant playing that role. it takes a bit of pressure if you move to a back three off by having Cancelo sat there. And the boys, he's super fit to be able to move from that position and still be able to drop back in and cover. You don't know what we're going to have as a team line up. And, like we've just said, we've got Mahrez, we've got Sterling, we've got an abundance of players that we're able to play with. And Pep's not afraid to make a big change in a big game. I mean, we're still playing Arsenal. You're a big team. And I think, the way Arteta's got you playing is at times you can see where you're going to be going forward in the future. And you're still a dangerous team. I couldn't even guess what the lineup's going to be. I've guessed a few times in the last sort of 10 weeks. And, yeah, there's always a surprise coming.
Yeah, likewise with Arteta. Scott, I'll stay with you, though. Let's just talk about Man City in general in terms of how you've been this season, because you started off a little bit shaky. I remember you getting thumped by Leicester, and I thought, wow, what's happening to Man City? Then you brought in Ruben Dias, who I thought has been absolutely amazing for you guys. He really has. And I said to Ray last season that I thought Cancelo was going to be a good player, and it looks to be proven right this season. I've been a massive fan of him, and obviously Gundogan in the middle. But what do you think's changed over the last few weeks, or maybe even a few months, to be fair, from the start of your season to where you're at now?
I think when a lot of people were talking about where we were positionally wise a couple of months ago, it was always a bit of a false position anyway. We still had the 2 games in hand. Even back in, I think it was November, if we'd won them 2 games in hand, it still took us up to, I think it was 2nd in the league. It was a bit of a transitional period because, when you haven't got 2 recognised strikers in Jesus and Aguero, you've got to start trying to find a way to stick almost round pegs in square holes. And Guardiola's found a way of doing that. I mean, you've mentioned yourself that we've found the way to make it work without having a recognised striker. Kevin De Bruyne's played up there. Foden's played up there. Sterling's played up there. And our form at the moment is absolutely incredible. And if you think that currently we've still got Aguero to come back and Kevin De Bruyne outside, the versatility in this squad, and personally, I think Guardiola has played an absolute tactical blinder to change the way in which we played, change the philosophy of football. We've gone from being the free-flowing, goal-scoring team to a team that now, actually at the back, we are so solid at the back. And that's the first time I've seen us look as good at the back as what we have. We always used to have a mistake in us. Now, I think this will be the season where we can kick on in the Champions League. Because of that mistake we always had, we get beat by teams that you'd look at on paper and think, they ain't going to beat City, but they did. We had it in the Champions League last season. But this year, I think this is our best chance at the Champions League in Pep's time. And I honestly believe, I think we're actually playing the best football I've ever seen us play. We had that season, we got the 100 points. But the way we're set up and the way we're playing now, we're so much more resilient. And we've still got goals from all over the park. But, I mean, Diaz is an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender. He's come in and he's hit the ground running immediately. And what I love even more, look at the impact he's had on John Stones. I mean, they were talking about potentially last summer, Stones going to you guys. And I think it says a lot about him and his character that he's, Pep's mentioned it a couple of weeks ago and said he wanted to stay and fight for his place. Same as Zinchenko as well, There was a lot of people saying about Zinchenko being replaced. He stood up and been counting and gone, no, I want to fight for my position. Stones has done the same. And, Diaz is 23. I mean, you'll never replace Vincent Kompany, but fuck me, we're close with him.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of him. I think he's been a brilliant signing, probably signing of the season, to be fair. And I think young Gundogan has been player of the season, to be honest with you. He's been absolutely outstanding.
I mean, with Gundogan, I mean, Ray might agree. For the last couple of seasons, I've often looked at him and thought, what is your role? Because it was quite clear that when you play him as a holding midfielder, it's not what suits him. And previous clubs he's played for, he's always played a more advanced role. He started playing that advanced role and he's grabbed it with both hands. And in actual fact, it's almost giving Guardiola a fucking bit of a selection issue, because we've got Kevin De Bruyne coming back in, and the last thing you want to do is bring De Bruyne in and upset Gundogan's rhythm at the moment. I mean, he's looking absolute world class currently. He really is.
Yeah, listen, I have to agree again, and particularly against Spurs, Mark. We watched that game together, and Gundogan was absolutely outstanding. But Mark, I've got to come to you and talk about City. We'll move on to Arsenal in a minute. They look to me like to be the clear favourites to win this league. I do think they will. I don't think it's going to be anybody that comes close to them, actually. But they for me are a team that I kind of am enjoying watching at the moment. And I would agree with Scott that I think they're playing some of their best football since the Centurion season. Would you agree with that, Mark?
Yeah. Yeah, they're good, aren't they? They're a real machine, and I think what we're seeing is Liverpool are struggling from 3 years, 2 years at the very least of going, hell for leather, full energy, long distance in the Champions League on a number of occasions, World Club Cup exploits, pushing City, losing out on the league by a point. And then coming back and hitting the ground running last season. So Liverpool just burnt out, and they need a season off almost. And no disrespect to them, it's kind of been forced on them with their injuries. So, and everybody else is just so inconsistent that anybody who's got a bit about them, then they can just string a run of games together, and they're away, aren't they? And City they are doing what we know they are. Some people I saw, which was quite comical, that they were writing City off. Write City off at your peril. Their squad is so lavish with superstars. We're to the fact that Scott just touched on the fact that potentially. Kevin De Bruyne is going to have to wait for his chance to get back in this side when he comes back from fitness. I'm like, stop it. You are taking a piss. I've had enough of talking about City now. These two, look at them sitting there. They're absolutely loving this. But you have to take credit where credit's due, and they are exceptional at the moment. And all credit to them. We are going to have to be about it and on our game and on our merits at the weekend. And all we can hope is what Ray said at the beginning, is that they might not necessarily need to be. Prioritising, shall we say, this game at the weekend, because they've got bigger fish to fry midweek and stuff like that. But I also agree a little bit that, potentially for us, this is not where we should be targeting points. And I think Ronnie in the group very early on asked if we should be playing with sort of Saka, Martinelli and Laka up top at the weekend and pulling Smith Rowe and Uber and whatnot out of this and saving them for a Europa League during the midweek, which let's be honest is our best opportunity to get back into Europe's elite competition. So, is this game where we've earmarked points? I would say absolutely not. And I would say that, why not prioritise, because we've seen Arteta do it before, guys, Arsenal fans, he sacrificed the FA Cup, our cup, let's be honest, to get 3 points in the league against, Southampton the next week, what have you, and it didn't quite pan out, did it? But so if we're talking about prioritising now, this is not for me. But if you're talking about Man City, and we'll just wrap that up. Yes, they will run away with this league, and deservedly so. They've been superb. And
Ray, to be fair, you've done it pretty much this season. Is it fair to say without Sergio Aguero and Kevin De Bruyne? So that just shows how good your squad is, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, Aguero, I think, has played 141 minutes this season. I think he started one game, didn't finish it. And everything else has come on a sub. He's been out basically. I don't think he scored a goal for a year or something. He's been out he played a bit. Certainly in Manchester for a long time. KDB, it's not been so bad. I think he's been out a couple of times. This last one he's been out for 4 weeks, so it's not too bad. And previously, I think it was just a week or two. I can't remember the actual numbers because we had so many players injured. I think that's one of the issues with us at the start of the season. Besides the injuries, we started the season with 3 guys that had COVID, so we obviously couldn't play them. And we had the shortest break. You know, we were playing in the Champions League on I think it was the 15th of August. Other teams had already started their pre-season. Liverpool were in Austria on I think it was 11th of August, starting their pre-season. We were still playing in the Champions League. And then 5 weeks later, we're playing against Wolves. So we had very little break. Players who were injured or needed a rest didn't get it. And that's one of the issues with KDB being injured as well. Pep said he's just playing too much football. But yeah, you know, we've done it without some of the players you'd expect. Laporte, we've done a lot of this season without Laporte. And, you know, if anybody had said City Laporte wouldn't feature or he wouldn't even be able to get in the side, nobody would have believed it. You know, Stones has done fantastically well as well. I think it's partly down to him as well as having a good partner alongside him. But Stones has hardly put a foot wrong this season. I watch him very carefully. He's hardly made a mistake. You know, the way he carries the ball, I don't ever remember him losing it. So, you know, guys who you thought might be on the way out, like Zinchenko and Stones, are suddenly actually come out and done the business. And I just think throughout the team, it's actually very, very good. And our backup players have come in and done a good job as well.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ray. Absolutely, 100%. It just shows the quality of your squad. I would never have thought Stones would have come in and done as well. Scott, I want to come to you just lastly before we move on to Arsenal, because one player that I absolutely love and think is going to be the future for Manchester City and England is Phil Foden. I think what he's done this season has really proved his worth. He's definitely around better players than Bukayo Saka, and some would argue that they're quite similar in terms of class. But I think that both, much as I love Saka and both of them, I think it's just fair to say they will both be absolute superstars in this league moving forward. How good can this kid be, Scott, do you think, Phil Foden?
Absolute world class. I've been lucky enough to, obviously, as other City fans, have watched him develop over the years, and it was only last season, a couple of group chats that I was in, that a lot of people were saying he needs to move, he needs to go somewhere else, he's not going to break into the team, he's not going to get the game time he deserves. And I'd always maintained that when David Silva left, he had a job to play. He had a role to fill. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to fill his boots. I mean, David Silva is, you know, he was one of the best, most consistent midfielders in the Premier League history since he arrived. But what we're watching in Phil Foden is we're watching an incredibly intelligent player that is able to play a number of roles as well. He's been out on the left, he's been out on the right, he's played up top. His vision and the way he plays football is just brilliant. I mean, I've heard him referred to as a Stockport Iniesta. I've heard all sorts of phrases coined about him over the last sort of couple of months. And I almost, you know, for the last 12 months, I felt like I was almost defending Pep's decision to bring him in the way he has. You know, I mean, there was even, I think it was on TalkSport or somewhere, they're talking about him going on loan to a championship team. Now, if you're playing with the likes of Aguero, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, you know, David Silva, what's he going to learn going to a championship club? He's going to learn more sticking with these boys he did, and it's clearly rubbed off on him. And I absolutely think that we have managed his career brilliantly. We've done it exactly right. He's been brought in slowly but surely. He's had that pressure taken away from him. The performance against Liverpool was absolutely brilliant. He's our best young talent by a long, long way. And, you know, I mean, he showed his clinical finishing that he was able to produce that goal against Liverpool. And the one thing that I'd say about what's amazing with Foden is the boy's got goals in him. He's not just a creative luxury player. He's someone that will produce goals in big games. And he scored against Liverpool. And I mean, that finish was absolute class. It's that lashing of the shot. It's that natural ability. And we're watching someone who could potentially be a City and England legend for sure.
Well, I think you're spot on, mate. I really do. I think he is going to be an absolute talent. And I think that when you look at how good the kid is, we've obviously got our own in Saka. And I think that it's very bright for the future of England. And I'm looking forward to this Euros if, and a big if, Gareth Southgate picks the right squad. Let's move on to Arsenal, because we did play last night. And I don't want to touch too much on it. I'll come to you first, Mark. Obviously, it was a game that I think most people were watching, trying to keep awake in parts of it, because it wasn't exactly a thriller. But from what we saw, there was some nice movement. There was some nice passing. But it's about us finishing our chances yet again. And last night, Aubameyang, who was on absolute fire against Leeds, missed sitters. If that was Ian Wright, Nicolas Anelka, Thierry Henry, would be like 3 or 4-1 up, sitting comfortably going into this game on Sunday. And now, because we fluffed our chances, we're going to have to make Thursday night the priority, in my opinion, still. So, Mark, what did you make of Arsenal's performance quickly last night? And what do you think is going to be confidence-wise going into Sunday?
Yeah. I don't think we need to dwell on it so much. Oh, God. It's one of them, isn't it? It's just like, a couple of them chances go in early doors and it completely changes the complex of the game, doesn't it? So, it's very uncharacteristic of Aubameyang. And, Christ, we've been here before, haven't we? When we've given big contracts to players of a certain age, and it's changed things, hasn't it? But let's hope we're not going down trodden paths again. But I don't know. I feel sorry for Arteta because he's got a belief and he's got a system and he's got a thing, and he's still building and all this sorts of stuff. But football's a funny old game, It is a funny old game, and it's littered with stories of what if and if only. And it's a game of fine margins. And sooner or later, it's going to have to turn. Sooner or later, big up John Drake. Sooner or later, it's going to have to turn, and it's going to have to start flipping in our favour. For Arteta's sake, because he doesn't get a free pass forever. And these boys are going to have to start performing for him. And I would take him out. I would take Aubameyang out at the weekend. But then, saying that, we all remember the semi-final of the FA Cup last year, don't we? So what do you do? What do you do as a manager? I don't know. But this is why I'm not paid anywhere near £6 million a year to make these decisions, because, he sees them day in, day out, doesn't he, on the training pitch, and he will know. And I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility to ask somebody who's earning £3,000 a week to be able to play 2 games of football in 7 days. I personally, I don't. But when you put into that, on top of that, this unique season of this bio bubble that they're all living in, where they've got literally none of us, any of us in the world, have got downtime, personal time, and they're training, traveling, commuting, bio bubble, testing, matches. It's very, very difficult environment. I can only imagine for them to be living in. You see the cricketers around the world. Mo Ali's done 2 tests. He's come out of the bio bubble. He needs a break. His head's gone, and it's really difficult for him. It is. It's such a unique season. It will go down in history. That Man City will probably win the COVID season. It will be remembered forever, I should think, as the season that kind of never was. There was no fans. It was so weird, and.
Come on, mate. That was last season. Liverpool won the season. Okay.
Right. Right. They could have took the rest of the season off. You wouldn't have catched them, brother. Do you know what I'm saying? they were flying, and they deserved that. And that hurts me to say it, but they did. But it's such a weird thing, isn't it? What we're living in, and I don't know. I feel like saying. Take them out, play the B team, let City have it, and if that helps them win the league and stops Spurs winning it and Man United and Liverpool, I'd much rather see City win it than any of those. So let's give them 3 points and focus on Benfica.
Do you know what though? Listen, Ray, I'll come to you because
we've got a choice in it, by the way. Sorry, we've got a choice about whether we give them 3 points. Listen, if they want to turn up and get them, they will.
Mate, you're spot on, you're spot on, because I'm not confident going into this weekend. We'll come into why in a minute. But Ray, we sat on this podcast 18 months ago and you said, I don't think you should get Arteta down because I don't think it's the right move for you. 18 months has passed. We have got a trophy, but for me, we're still way off in the league. I don't see an amazing style of play. I know that Mark and Scott were talking about that we are looking to go in the right direction. I have massive concerns about this manager, and I think that he's making the same mistakes. And one of them is bringing on Willian every single game. There must be something in that guy's contract which says that he's got to be playing. So what is it, Ray, about Arteta at the moment? You know him quite well as being the number 2 for Pep. What do you make of his job at Arsenal?
He's not done as well as I would have liked him to do, because he comes across as a nice guy. I've met him after a game, and he's, I think in his time at City, I think people thought he was a bit of a sourpuss at the time in the early days, and then he mellowed towards the end. And you were hoping that if he was going to come to Arsenal, he'd take on that role as a manager far better than he has done. I mean, he's kept you kind of steady, but steady in 8th, 9th, 10th. That's not good enough for a club like Arsenal. So I was hoping he'd do better. He must see something in the players. He must, it's the same way you look at someone like Pep. He plays certain players, and we say, how can you be playing this guy and that guy? All last season I said, how are you playing Rodri instead of Fernandinho at DM? Pep obviously sees something a bit better than me. Only just, but he's got a bit more, a bit more than me. So, Arteta must be seeing something that he believes in these players. That you're giving contracts to people like Pablo Mari and a few others from last season. I can't remember some of the players that hardly played. Was it Ceballos? Did he hardly play and he got a contract?
Cedric Suarez as well.
Yeah, and David Luiz and stuff like that. Some of it's going to come down to money, and some of it is also because I think they reckon they want to get someone somewhere else. So rather than get another defender to replace Luiz, we'd rather focus on something else. Let's say this summer, and the following summer we'll get another defender. Because Luiz is good enough for what we need right now. Somewhere else is a little bit more important. So it's tough, but sometimes you can see the benefit of keeping somebody a little bit longer. We joked yesterday about David Moyes and West Ham, but but the truth is, they've given him a little bit of time. He's starting to do something. I don't know. Next season they might be rubbish again. It might just be a fluke. But you've got to give him time. And I think you probably have to write off this season. And I know no one wants to. And I know you guys want to write off the season and then start again. Do you really want to do that? You've had that with Unai Emery. You started again now with Arteta. Do you want to do that again with somebody else?
No, we've said this,
who
Ray.
might not make it.
We've said this, Ray. Sorry, Dan, jumping in there, but
No,
we've said
on,
this. We don't want to end up with a fractured squad, Ray. With half a team built by him and half a team built by him. If you're going down a road, you've got to give it 3 years. Got to give it 6 windows. He's only just this window got after Deadwood out. I mean, crikey, he's got another 18 months to actually get a squad, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, like Pep now. It's taken Pep for in his 5th season. The team that played against Everton, he bought every single one of those players, I think, if I'm right. He bought every single one. I'm not sure if that's the first time that's happened under Pep, that this is his team. So, he can't blame anybody else. And in the first year, he could blame the fact that we had Sagna as right back and I think an aging Zabaleta, and we ended up the end of the season with Jesus Navas as our right back. We had Clichy and Kolarov on the other side. I mean, we had players who weren't good enough for City and for what we wanted to do. So yes, you could blame them in that first season, but now the only person he can blame is himself. And I think Arteta needs to be given that chance as well, so that the success is either coming from him or the failure is coming purely down to Arteta, not the fact that he's inherited some crap players from Unai Emery or from Arsene Wenger. Give him a chance. I think you've got to give him at least into next season, unless you end up falling down the league and flirting with relegation. Give him another window and see what you can do.
Fair play. Scott, let's come to you because I'm not convinced. Mark wants to give him time. I think it's a results business. And I think if you had told me at the start of the season that in February we'd be 10th in the league, out of both domestic cups and a 1-1 draw against Benfica and looking like we could go out of the Europa League, I'd say, let's just get rid of him now because we're in trouble. We're a team like Arsenal. We shouldn't be down by, behind West Ham, behind teams like Everton and Villa, in my opinion. We needed to be trying to fight for that top 4. And I would argue that he has got a better squad than people are giving him credit for. I personally feel like Saka is better than Iwobi under Emery. I think Tierney's better than Kolasinac under Emery. I think apart from Aaron Ramsey, everybody else has been upgraded. You can't tell me that El Neni and Torreira and Guendouzi are better than Thomas Partey. You can't tell me that David Luiz and Mustafi are better than Gabriel. So I would argue that Arteta has got a better squad now, and that we do need to be doing a lot better than he currently is. What do you make of it, Scott?
I mean, for me, the trouble you're going to end up with is it's going to be Groundhog Day. You can't keep having this merry-go-round of people that come in, try to influence their philosophy on the squad, try to play a certain style of football, then they go. Then another manager comes in, they've got a different style of football. It's now confusing the players who've spent X amount of time under one manager trying to learn how to play a certain way, which hasn't worked under the previous manager. A new guy comes in, he's got a different philosophy. And I generally, I agree to a certain degree that Mark said. I think there was a bit of deadwood within Arsenal. The thing I like about Arteta the most is he's got a philosophy. There is a way he wants to play football, and if he gets given the staff and the players to do it, I think he'll turn it around. I do. But for instance, what happens then if you out him? Who's coming in? What manager are you going to get? And then another manager comes in and goes, right, I've got out what he thinks is the deadwood. You're going to get stuck in a Groundhog Day moment where all you're going to do is keep being where you are. I generally think that if you give him a bit of time, obviously he's learnt off the best, give him a bit of time and let him implement the style and philosophy he's got, because he has a direction in his own mind. Under Unai Emery and some of the other managers you've had, I've looked at times and thought, you play one way one week and a different way the next week. There's no consistency for the players, because the players are thinking, well, you told me to do one job last week, this week I'm doing a completely different job. At least if there's a philosophy and a consistency of this is what I want. Prime example is Guardiola, the first season. I'll never forget Jason Cundy on Talk Sport one night saying in December, in Pep's first season, that he should go. And he's playing an abject amount of football that is not sustainable in the Premier League. He's not good enough to be a Premier League manager. Look at how laughable is that? Talking about Guardiola going after 6 months because the style of football he played wasn't fitting. But the truth was, he didn't have the team of players that he needed to influence and ultimately deliver the style of play he wanted. And I think if Arteta can build a squad based on what his philosophy is and give him that chance to implement it, I think the fortunes have changed. I mean, to be fair, I looked at the league form. I think it was in midweek or the week before. I mean, in the last 10 games overall, I think you were up to like 4th or 5th in the league form. So there is, I might be wrong, but it might have been an old post that I'd seen from someone else. But I think there's the potential there to do it. He's got some good young players. Saka, I mean, to be honest, he's the only player I'd take out the Arsenal squad right now. Maybe the good version of Aubameyang that turns up at times, because he can be lethal. But do you know what, Aubameyang, is he like an Eddie Bayou? He only plays when he feels like it. That's my only concern with Eddie Bayou. He's been brilliant and his stats stack up, but pressure's got on a little bit and he's not delivering, is he?
Well, I was going to say the Arsenal record, the last 10 league games, 6 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses, if I'm right. Last 10 league games, which is pretty decent when you look at what other teams are doing right now. You see Southampton dropping. No one's really putting in a good run of form apart from City. And Arsenal's actually has been pretty decent.
I mean, I must admit that the last few games we have started to play a style of football, and I've said that on here because I've been a bit brutal, particularly around the September-October time when we were getting hammered by Villa at home 3-0, and we were losing 1-0 to about 4 or 5 teams in a row, and I was just getting down and depressed because I weren't seeing a style of play. Yes, we were better defensively, but we were losing a lot of games 1-0. We weren't scoring for toffee, so I was getting really frustrated with it, and it was the same team every week with Arteta. Now we're starting to see the Smith-Rowes and the Sakas coming in. I'm still not seeing enough of Martinelli in my liking because I think that the player's got talent. I think he's much, much better than Pepe or Willian, but Pepe or Willian are getting ahead of him at the moment. He gave loads and loads of time to Joe Willock and Eddie Nketiah, and he's not giving the same time, in my opinion, to Martinelli. So I hope that changes and we start to see that now, because I think the kid's got absolute raw talent. And I think if you can start to use those players to infuse the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette, then we might seem to start looking at scoring some more goals and getting some more results. But Mark, I'll come to you because I think it's important for this weekend's game. we've got a lot of players that are now available. We have Pablo Marie back. We have options at the centre back now.
I'll stop you there. Pablo Marie may be available, but we won't use him because of the clause.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you believe that, or do you not?
Do I believe it? He hasn't played a game since he played 9 games on the spin for us.
I'm with you, mate.
An absolute world beater. And then he hasn't played again because he had a thigh strain. And then it comes to light that we've got to pay £1 million if he plays 10 league games. Shut up, is it true?
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable. I honestly cannot believe that would be so very Arsenal. But listen, we have got some players back. Obviously, Pablo Marie, Gabriel, David Luiz, and Rob Holding. They're all available. Be interesting to see what centre half pairing he thinks is best suited moving forward. Obviously, Thomas Partey looks like he could be fit. Touch and go. Kieran Tierney came on the other night, another player who's so important. And, I know Scott said he'd take Saka. I'm sure Ryan Scott would take Kieran Tierney fit over Zinchenko, but maybe I'm wrong. I think Kieran Tierney's got the potential to be top class in the Premier League. I really do. So we've got some options. Mark. Are you expecting a strong side on Sunday, mate?
Well, no. I don't know. No, I wouldn't play Partey because it's clearly not right. And he's played something like 8 seasons or something for Atletico Madrid, never missed a game. He's come to us and he's struggling a bit, and maybe that's a little bit of everything combined with burnout from Diego Simeone and the Arsenal injury jinx and moving countries and different doctors and physios looking at different things. So I would just say, just park him, you know what I mean? And Thursday night may be more important. Tierney, he needs to run a games. He looks fantastic, doesn't he? But it's no good looking fantastic for 2 games and then having 3 off. Do you know what I mean? That's part time. We ain't got the depth of squad to have people like that. So he can only come back if he is ready to come back fully. We one of our centre halves will need to be a ball playing progressive centre half, as is the modern way, and that is why David Luiz is hanging around our squad, because he's got the out ball. And I fully expect David Luiz to play because I do like him. What I particularly liked about him was the way he berated Granit Xhaka the other night, who nearly gave the game away against Benfica for that stupid ball. Lost possession in our own half, our own area almost. And David Luiz was all on him for that, because that Xhaka's got that in his game. We know that, he's got a glaring mistake, a game-losing mistake. So I would, obviously we know William will come off the bench because that's another clause in the contract. If he's an unused sub, we get fined. So he will make a cameo of about 20 minutes and do very little. But I would like to see Martinelli start. I would like to see Lacazette start. I think it will be Laka and Uber and maybe Martinelli and Odegaard. The lad, he needs minutes. He's on loan. It's no concern of ours if he breaks down. He's not our player. He's just there doing a job for us, which is protecting our other midfield players. So I would go with Odegaard and I would give Smith Rowe. I'd take Smith Rowe out. He needs a break, I think. He's a good lad. Done well for us, really appreciated of it. But I would have him as an impact player, maybe. Pepe, he's probably got a shout for a start, to be honest with you. He didn't do any harm, did he, in the semi-final and the final of the FA Cup last year, and obviously against City and that. So maybe he can raise his game for the big games, and this is a big game against a big club, the best club in the league this season. So, yeah, maybe a few changes. I think I've touched on a few of them there. I don't expect to see too many major surprises. It will be Xhaka and probably Ceballos, won't it? Again.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that pair, man. I thought Ceballos was all right last night.
It could be El Nini instead of Ceballos, to be fair. Maybe try.
No, I think you'd be right. I think you are right.
Maybe double park on Foden. I know.
Maybe it will have to be. Listen, I think we need about 4 players to mark some of theirs out, to be fair, but there we go. Ray, I'm going to come to you on this one. Evening to Sophie and Harvey Scott. Top girl. Absolutely love Sophie. If we approach this game versus City like it's the FA Cup, we can win. What do you make of that, Ray? Is that the only way to kind of beat you, to try and play a different kind of style? Because if we try and play football against City, I think we'll get hammered.
yeah, if you try and play football, I think, yeah, you're right. You'll get beat. We are just too good. You're gonna have to do something different. It might be that you have to put that press on. Depending if we're playing through at the back, might be. We've seen teams pick on a player or who they think is weak and focus on him. Like they say, right, as soon as Laporte gets the ball, if he's at centre back, you're on him. Yeah, if it's Diaz is on the ball, you leave him because he's got too much control or whatever. So you got to pick your players like, if Zinchenko's playing, focus on him. I said for 3 or 4 seasons, knock the ball over his head. The diagonal ball over Zinchenko's head is a problem for him. Even this season, he struggled with that. In the games earlier in the season, that was one of the big problems we had. But you can't play the same way against us and hope to get a different result. It's because we've seen it doesn't work. So you've got to mix it up a little bit. It might be you have to get your stick the boot in a bit fairly, but stick the boot in and show that you mean something. Because Everton had a decent game against City. The way they set up 4-4-2, 2 guys in the middle in Doucouré and Tom Davis, who were there just to disrupt and cause trouble. And yes, we had plenty of chances, but Everton had 3 or 4 half decent chances themselves. And I think you just got to be in a position to mix it up. Always pace is a big factor, big impact on City if you've got the right amount of pace there. And break. And when you break, you got to take a risk as well. If you want to score, don't break with 3 or 4 players, break with 5 or 6. You've got to take that risk. Obviously, it leaves you open at the back, but if you want something out of the game, I think you're going to have to score.
Well, absolutely. I think it's going to be a must, in my opinion. Scott, before we move on to kind of predictions to start wrapping up the show, I want to come to you on a few Arsenal players that potentially you'd like to see in a Man City shirt. If I could give you a couple of players, you can go for whoever you want to pick into a Man City side, then who would you go from this current crop of players, mate?
Like I mentioned earlier, probably only Sacco, and it's no disrespect to you boys as a club, because you do have some exciting players within your squad that are coming through. You've mentioned a few previously, but our City squad is that good. There aren't many players across Europe right now that are going to break into that team. There's no one getting in at centre back right now. That midfield takes care of itself. Yes, we've had the striker issues. I mean, for me, the only real addition that we need to have this season would be Haaland. I don't think there's any players from most clubs that are going to break in that team, but Sacco's the one I'd take for sure.
I mean, I must admit, I quite agree that I think Saka would be superb anywhere, but might struggle even to get into your first team the way that you're playing with your attacking players. But I would argue that potentially Aubameyang on his day at the moment, because obviously Aguero's been injured. I would argue that Thomas Partey could walk into your side because he is ridiculously good, and I would argue that Kieran Tierney would be better than Zinchenko. But I think you're right there. There's not going to be many personally currently in this squad. Ray, I'll come to you before I come to Mark. Would you agree with that there? Do you think I've mentioned names that you'd have, or do you disagree?
Saka I'd have. Yeah, I like him. He's exciting. He's young. He's got plenty of talent, a lot of potential. He's going to go a long way. So, yeah, definitely Saka. To be honest, the thing is with Zinchenko, he's fought for his place as well. He could have gone a couple of seasons back to Wolves wanted him. They thought they had the deal sorted. Betis wanted him. Could have gone this summer. He stayed and knuckled down and fought for his place. And I actually think he gives us that balance, having him on the left. And he's the kind of player we want. So if Tierney comes, right now I'd say he's backup. I would want to see him how he'd fit into that City side and how he'd play with the rest of the players to see whether he's actually better in that position than Zinchenko. Aubameyang, is he going to work hard enough? I think that's the big issue for me. For all Gabriel Jesus' issues in actually scoring goals when he's got a good chance, he works so hard. And I think that's what gets him in that team, and that's what keeps him playing most weeks, is because of his work rate, his movement, dropping back, and everything else. Aubameyang's not going to offer you that, and so I think I'm trying to think. Partey, I don't know how. I've not seen enough of him. He's been out for. He played about 10, 12 games for you guys. So I've not seen what he can do. I've seen him. Was it that game where he was it against Spurs, or I can't remember now, where he got injured and he was hobbling off the pitch. I mean, sorry, I'd like my players to have a little bit of heart. I know mates are playing football. Playing with broken ankles, broken bones in the foot during the game. You don't drag yourself off. I remember I played a game at training on a Wednesday. I bust my leg. We had a cup game on the weekend, and they wanted me to play. And I had 4 sessions of physio paid privately. I needed 6 weeks off. I had 4 sessions of physio, and I went to play that game. We got stuffed, I think 4-1 or 4-2 or something. But that's the kind of effort you want. So I'm not sure Partey's, and once again, without seeing him and seeing how he fits into the City side, you just don't know, who's going to fit in. Saka's the only one I'd drive down to London and pick him up myself. I'd carry him on my back to Manchester.
Fair play. Both quite adamant about that. Bukayo Saka, I think he is going to be an absolute talent, and already is, to be fair. Mark, what player would you not have in the Man City? I think personally for me, man, I don't know if you agree, Mark.
John Stones. I wouldn't have John Stones.
I'm gonna go Kevin De Bruyne 100%. Like walks in this side, as far as I'm concerned, mate.
He's
all right.
I'd like to see his fitness ratio though. For me, he misses a few, don't he, Kevin? He does. Like I remember the Centurion season. Scott, I don't think Kevin De Bruyne played too many games that season for you when you got 100 points. Did he? Let's have it right. He's one of the best midfield players in the world on the ballers list. But no, I don't. I like Phil Foden. I don't know whether it's because he's English, whether he's playing for his hometown club. I got that. We have that. I've spoke about it before as fans, don't we? We have that affinity with the lad. I love seeing lads playing for their own club. Like Saka's playing for us, like. Greenwood and Rashford are playing for United, like Foden's playing for Hughes, and I like to see it, and it seems to be happening a bit more. I don't know if that's whether you guys are feeling that, but I don't know whether this COVID financial restrictions, Chelsea last year, the transfer ban and stuff, it sort of seems to be having some lads, youth lads, coming through and playing for their clubs. Mason Mount, Frank went, everyone said, oh, he's Frank Lampard's love child, he's not going to get in the team no more, and he got bombed out first game, didn't he? And Tuchel left him out, and Kante, the World Cup winner, was back in, and what not a bad substitution. Then Mason Mount comes back in, and I just love seeing it. I just love seeing the English boys playing in the best league in the world, forcing their way into these clubs, which are the biggest clubs in the world, with the most money in the world, and yet there's still little Phil Foden from Manchester getting in amongst it. I just love it. I just love that. And him, Bernardo Silva, what a player, and Gundogan, majestic, isn't they? Just
I've got to say, KDB isn't that injury prone, in back to 16-17, he played 36 out of 38 league games. Centurion season, he played 37 out of 38.
Okay.
The following season he got injured, he played 19.
I'm wrong then.
There was one season he got hurt, and he played 19 league games. Right. And then I'm just going to tell you, last season he played 35. So it's just one season.
Okay. So my memory is distorted.
You still can't have him.
And to be honest, we couldn't afford to pay him for 3 days a week, let alone 7. So he wouldn't want to come to us. But he could go and rebuild Real Madrid, though, couldn't he? That would always be my fear with someone like that. That a new president comes in Barcelona and says, "That's the man that we're going to build our club around."
Not at the moment with Spain and France, man. They ain't got any money in that countries, have they?
No, they haven't. But yeah, for Phil, it'll be Phil Foden for me.
Fair play, Scott. Sorry, mate, you were going to say.
Yeah, I think the stats back up the whole Kevin De Bruyne thing. I think there is a perception that he's injured a lot more than what he actually is, and his assist record is just absolutely off the chart. And the Centurion season, we got 100 points, and we did spend most of the season without him. But yeah, I think there is that perception he's injured more often than what he is. And do you know what? When he is fit, he produces every time, doesn't he?
He does indeed. Thomas from Norway says he'd take your owner.
Yeah, fair play. Fair play, Thomas. We've all missed the biggest picture here, haven't we?
Centurion season, KDB played 37 games. I've got to say it again. Centurion season, KDB played 37 games. It's a formidable season where we won 4 trophies. That he played only 19 games.
Class.
But pretty much every season he plays all the games. And when people say he's injury prone, he always comes back from injury ahead of schedule. This latest injury, they were saying 4 to 6 weeks. He's come back within 4 weeks. He's missed 6 league games this season. That's all. So this injury-prone player has played 18 out of 24 games this season.
Fair play, boys.
In those, Scott said when he does come back, Ray, he's on the bench. He's on the bench.
No, I said for me in February, KDB is on the bench for me. Aguero should be on the bench probably until the end of March because we're doing so well without him. Use him as a super sub. Use them both as super subs, and until all the players are tired. Not
bad, is he, having them two as super
sub? Used to have that. Dan. Do you remember when we used to have those sorts of options and stuff, didn't we? Before City started buying all their players. Dan, before we wrap up, while we've got Scott on here on this rare occasion, I would like Scott to tell us his favourite City goal against Arsenal. Arsenal fans are not going to like this, by the way, but it is a cracker.
It was 2 seasons ago, and the goal itself wasn't a particularly good goal, but it was a Sane goal when we won 3-0. And it was more about the team. I think there was 30 odd passes before
45. I think
finished. And it was just what a bit of team play. It was just one of them. I mean, we've done it against Man United. I think it was 54 passes and the goal that we ultimately won the game with on that one. But the Sane goal a couple of years ago, it wasn't the goal. It was the build-up play to it. It was absolutely exquisite.
I must admit, I was amazed that you had Sancho and Sane and they both gone. And I thought, wow, like they are 2 of the best wingers and they couldn't even get in the side. It's scary, scary stuff. It really is. Mark, we'll start with you. Prediction for the game on Sunday, mate. What do you reckon?
I think we're going to win 2-0.
All right, mate. I like it. I love the optimism.
Pepe free kick and David Luiz header.
You heard it here first.
Are they own goals, Mike?
Own goals,
shit. Sorry, Ray. Yes, that is it. My premonition. I've got the wrong goal. It's 2-0 City. 2. No. I'm going for 2-0 Arsenal. Come on, you Arsenal.
There we go. Got to be optimistic. Ray, we'll come to you next. What do you reckon, mate?
I can't laugh at him. Because I still remember that FA Cup semi-final. It's going to take a few years for that feeling to disappear, where we thought we just, it looked like we just turn up and win. I'm going to go 3-0 to City.
3-0 to 3-0. City.
Simply because we don't need any more than that.
Excellent. Scott.
Against Arsenal, we can rest after 37 minutes and take the rest of the game easy.
Okay, I'll tell you what, if we're still in it at 37 minutes, I'll be chuffed.
I must admit, we're not feeling very optimistic, are we? So before I give my prediction, Scott, will come to you next, mate. What do you reckon the score will be, bud?
Funny, 3-0's been it's been a scoreline a couple of times in the last 3 games. I think we've had 3-0, 3-0, and 3-1. I'll let you have a goal, 3-1. City, obviously.
3-1 to Man City. I am going to say that this game is going to be too difficult for us to take 3 points. I love Mark's optimism, but I am going to go for a 2-0 Manchester City win. I don't think we're going to score. We're not scoring for fun at the moment, unfortunately. So I think it's going to be too difficult for us. But I actually, and people will disagree and people won't like me saying this, I think Thursday night is a lot more important than trying to beat Man City. I really do. Because I actually think that if we don't beat Benfica and go through, then our manager should be sacked for what he's done this season. Might be harsh, might be a horrible thing to say, but I don't think that you can sit there and say that Arsenal in 10th and out of every single trophy in February is acceptable. And that's just my opinion. I have to thank everyone for coming on tonight. It's been a great show. Ray, I'll come to you first. Ray, thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate you as always coming on. How can people follow you, mate?
City Fan TV on YouTube, and you can catch me on Twitter. Probably Ray City Fan TV 1. Something like that. You put my name, Ray City, I should pop up.
Ray City. Is that your surname then, City, yeah? Ray, always a pleasure, man, and thanks for coming on again, bro. Scott, I have to say thanks to yourself, mate. Debut, absolutely superb. A lot of people in the chat saying you spoke a lot of sense, mate. So it's quite rare to get a Man City on that speaks sense, isn't it, Ray? Do you know what I mean? So that's all good. Really appreciate you coming on, Scott. How can people follow you, mate?
I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's nice to talk to some sensible people about football sometimes. Other than Martin's a bit of a prick, but you can find me at Scott Schooling. That's it. Just at Scott Schooling on Twitter.
At Scott Schooling on Twitter. Go and give Scott a follow. Mark, always a pleasure, mate. Thanks for getting Scott on as well. Much appreciated, buddy.
I didn't do it. Our leader did it.
Oh, it was Craig, wasn't it?
It was our leader, Craig, who was supposed to be here tonight. So we miss you, Craig. Hope everything's well. He's rebuilding the internet at Cork. I think he started digging a hole for them to lay the cable in from Liverpool or something. I don't know. Good luck with that. But
if he's in Liverpool, he'll be laying the cable. There'll be someone behind him nicking it. Ray.
Keep doing what you do on Twitter, Ray. We love watching your content, mate, with the women's football champion and all that, mate. You're great on there, man. Keep doing that stuff.
Yeah, it's quality, Ray. I've watched a few. It's really good, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Absolutely top lad, Ray and Scott. Thanks for coming on, Mark. Always a pleasure. Thanks to everybody in the chat tonight. Absolutely brilliant. Over 100 of you watching live. Superb stuff. Please come and follow the Same Old Arsenal if you have not done so already at Same Old AFC on Twitter. If you would like to follow myself, it's at DanArsenal87. We will see you on Monday at 7 o'clock when the gang are back to discuss hopefully 3 points against City. But I think that's very optimistic. We will have to see. Until then, guys, up the Arsenal.